Hello. So this time we'll consider the conversion on a non-deterministic finite automata to an equivalent deterministic finite automata, in the sense that they accept exactly the same language. Okay, so from the very beginning, it seems like a non-deterministic finite automaton is more powerful. It seems like you can do more things from any given state, and I'm just trying to summarize them here. You can jump without reading any symbols, or you can go to different states upon reading a single symbol, or you may simply indicate that you do nothing absolutely once you get there, right? Right? Either by not reading anything or by reading anything, right? And that might come with a simplification of the design of the machine. And as we can see here, in this example, we have two machines that accept one that is deterministic and one that is a non-deterministic. And why is that? Because in this case, at any given state, we don't have to tell everything, every single possibility, right, for every single input that we received. Right? So it's a simpler version, but it will suffice at least for an introduction. So both of these two accept the language consisting of a single string, A, B. Now, as we can see just from the design here, it seems much easier, right, than the one that we obtain from this one. Might not be the case for every single pair of equivalent machines, but at least it serves as a purpose, right, for this. Okay, so how would be a conversion associated with this? I'm going to start by the following. So how do we convert? Well, the idea is to emulate with a deterministic finite automata the behavior of the non-deterministic one as it's reading the symbols one by one. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to label the machine, the original that we had, so that it becomes a little bit easier for us to process it. The machine has three states, A, B, right? And now, very first thing, where is that we are supposed to start? Well, we start at first at the initial state of the original machine. But not only that, we have to consider where else can we go without reading anything from that state. But as we can see from this picture, we have no epsilon arrows, no arrows indicating no reading whatsoever, just a jump. So the initial state is essentially the same state as the one that we have just here. So I'm going to indicate that as a singleton collection. So our machine has the singleton 1 containing the set containing the element 1 as its initial state, or as its start state. Okay, so now the diagram looks just like this. Okay, so far it looks exactly the same as the one that we had originally, except for just a little bit of notation. Okay, now we ask ourselves, well, let's process this new state, kind of a state of states. What happens if we read an A? Well, let's read an A. On this state. Well, from that one, the only thing that we can do is to go to 2. And I'll signal it here, right? Then we ask, what happens if from state 1, which is the only one considered here, we read a B? Well, if we read a B, well, actually we get stuck. There's nothing that we can do from state 1 by reading a B, which would indicate that we actually go to a sink, a place where we cannot escape. Well, we're going to signal that with the empty set. So we get stuck. Right? Remember, the idea is to try to list all the possible states that we can go. Upon reading a symbol, well, there's no state that we can go, so we can signal that with the empty set. Okay, so now the diagram progress to the following configuration. Now, at the moment that we introduce a sink, we can do it at any moment, but we can say, well, it's a sink, there's no escape from it, so no matter what you read, you're going to stay there. And it cannot be a final state, of course, right? It's a sink, at least in this particular case. Let's see. So, let's now, I think at the moment, look, what we have is a completely determined behavior for the state that we are indicating here. If we are at this state, upon reading A, we go here. Upon reading B, we go here. Okay, we're done. What is next is, well, to process what happens when we read something from this state, the one that contains a 2. Okay, let's give it a shot now. What if we read an A from any of the states listed in that collection? Well, it only contains one thing. If we read an A, we get stuck. So I can easily signal that by introducing a new arrow here, A. Good. Well, what if we read a B? Well, that means that we can only go to one place, the state 3. Right? Let's not forget what we're trying to emulate. So we can go to 3 and that's it. There's nowhere else that we can go because we have no epsilon arrows, right, associated in this picture. So we'll just enlarge our machine with this configuration. Now, this new state that we have here is supposed to be final because it contains one of the final states of the original machine. Right? Remember, a non-deterministic finite automaton accepts a string exactly when one, right, among the many possible computations, finish in a final state. Right? So we will have to signal it here as well. Okay, so now we're left with processing this state. We'll see what happens, right? Let's now consider this collection of states. Of course, it only contains one. Well, what if we read an A? Well, if we read an A, we get stuck. Right? As we see it from the original configuration here. Now, what if we read a B? Well, again, well, we get stuck. But when you say we get stuck, that means go to a sink that is not an accepting state. Right? And with this, we would finish. And we're done processing all the states associated with this diagram, and this produces our equivalent deterministic finite automata. Now, in this particular case, it's exactly the one that we use as a comparison. Well, that's a pleasant surprise. Now, what happens if we have epsilon arrows, meaning that we can jump to other states without reading any symbol? Well, for that, look at the subsequent video. Take care.